Okay, everybody, please label your paper, your assignment, levels of organization. You need to have a piece of paper. You got to write down stuff that's in this video. Now, what we're going to do here, unfortunately, last year when the pandemic hit, you guys in sixth grade hadn't studied cells yet. And so, what I'm going to do is kind of quickly go over something that I would have taught in sixth grade, but you missed it. But it's a real important idea. I wish we had time to do cells. I feel really bad that you guys didn't get to learn about cells because it's an important part of biology. And honestly, it's an amazing thing when you think about the fact that we're made of cells. And yesterday, or not yesterday, but the last lesson we had, one of the characteristics of life is all living things are made of cells. Well, I want to get into this concept that we're going to build on in ecosystems called levels of organization. And partly what it gets into a little bit is the difference between living things and non-living things. So let's go ahead and get into it. You might recall that one of the qualities or characteristics that living things have is all living things are made of cells. Now remember, if it's white, you got it right, but if it's yellow, just be mellow, right? You don't have to write it over again because you wrote it last time. But remember, all living organisms are made of cells. But now I want to get back into that cells idea a little bit because there's a concept in there involving levels of organization, all right? So on your paper, please title it what? Levels of organization. Okay. And so, to launch into it a little bit, I want to kind of give an introduction that's similar to something that you might be familiar with the concept from language arts rather than biology, because this concept of levels of organization, it's really kind of a deep concept about how the universe is structured altogether, right? And so, on your piece of paper, now, if it's white, you got to write, you know that already. But anything I write, anything that I write in green on the paper coming up, you've got to write it down. Okay, here it comes. On your piece of paper, take the following notes.
Down. Anything that gets written on this paper, you write down. Now, the title of the assignment, get a piece of paper if you don't have one already. Pause the video if you don't have it. Go get a piece of paper and something to write with. Okay. Now, title it Levels of Organization. This concept here is a pretty important concept in biology, okay? Levels of organization. Okay. Now, this is a concept. I'm going to go into this. Last year, unfortunately, because of the pandemic hitting, you didn't really get to study cells. And so I'm going to review a little bit that would have been taught last year, and then we're going to build up on it for ecosystems and stuff. But this concept is the same levels of organization. Okay, so let's start in an abstract sense. Let's start just what is the concept about. And here's an example I want you to think about that you're familiar with from English language arts. Let's say I put these things here on this paper, and these are lines, right? And if you have lines, yes, write this down, because when you look at this, you'll see the concept here. Lines, they don't mean anything. They don't do anything. They're just lines, right? But if you organize them in the right way, if you put them in the right condition relative to each other, you can make things like this. What's that? That's a letter. Now you might say, oh, it's the letter A. Oh, but what is it? It's just lines. No, there's something about this letter that is more than just being lines, right? Or you might have this one. There's the letter L, or you might have a letter P that has a curved line in there. But each of these is an individual letter, but it's not made of anything but lines, but it does something that lines don't do. It's a symbol. The lines aren't really symbols. Now you've created a symbol that something new is happening at this level of organization. So we'll go ahead and write this, letters. And so you have letters. Now, if you put letters together, you can make something entirely new. Sometimes this is called the sum is more than the, the whole is more than the sum of the parts. Now, what if you put these and just organize them? You could go like this and just put some letters together. And now what do you have? You have a word. Now, a word has meaning. The letter doesn't really have meaning, but somebody could say, okay, this is nothing but letters. You know what? There's more to it than just being letters. Yes, if you take away the letters, there's nothing left. There's nothing but letters, except when you organize them, something new happens. And what happens is you get a word that has meaning. Now, if you put words, you probably see where I'm going with this now. If you put words together into a certain sequence, you organize them in a particular way, something entirely new can happen. What do you get? Say it if you know what I'm going for. Like, the apple is red. Okay? So what do you have there? It's a sentence. And a sentence does something that words don't do. It conveys an idea, right? And somebody could argue, but there's nothing there but words. Yeah, but when you arrange those words, you create something new. You create something bigger.